America has got a new high-speed train running between Orlando and Miami. It's painted bright yellow, and it's not operated by Amtrak. This is the Brightline, and it covers 250 miles in around 3.5 hours. It speeds up to 125 miles per hour. In this video, we'll take a look at whether Brightline was worth the $218 I paid for a round-trip ticket in their Smart class, but also how it compares to other transportation options both here in the US and abroad. All right, just got to the Brightline station in Orlando. Headed down to Miami this morning. Not a very pleasant day outside. Got a light drizzle going. The one thing we do have going for us is it's not scorching hot. It's like the week before Christmas. Heading down to Miami to see one of my good buddies, and we're taking the coolest high-speed train. The station in Orlando just got built. It's looking real fresh, and I was pumped to see what was inside. But first, now I think it's important to mention that Brightline itself isn't actually new. Phase 1 of Brightline launched back in 2017 with services between Miami and West Palm Beach at a cost of roughly $3 billion. But it wasn't until 2019 until they started the extension to Orlando, which took a little over 4 years at a cost of $6 billion. The original Brightline initially struggled to gain traction. In fact, the company turned to this man to help spark demand via the so-called Virgin Magic. But the partnership was terminated during COVID as Brightline determined, quote, the Virgin brand ceased to constitute a brand of international high repute, largely because of matters related to the pandemic. Wow. So there was some drama, there was a lawsuit, but ultimately Brightline came out on top and decided to proceed on their own. And it seems to have worked out so far. Anyways, back to Orlando Station in the present day. The nearly 38,000 square foot facility is directly adjacent to Orlando Airport's new Terminal C, so it's incredibly convenient for passengers arriving into or departing from MCO. Now, it was also convenient for me because I live around 10 minutes from the airport, but be forewarned, parking costs $20 a day. Brightline recommends showing up at least 15 minutes before your scheduled departure time, but I gave myself 50 just to explore the station and grab a bite to eat. All right, here we go. I feel like I'm entering the Matrix. This is really cool. The first thing you'll see here after getting blinded by the entryway light is the baggage drop and baggage claim over to the left, though I doubt this gets much use. You're allowed 2 carry-on bags for free, both of which can be up to 64 linear inches before you start getting charged. That's pretty generous, as the airlines allow up to 62 inches for checked luggage. After buzzing through these automatic gates, you will then be screened, but it's nowhere near as involved as TSA. You won't have to empty your water bottle, and you won't have to take off your shoes. There were no other passengers to be seen, so I waltzed right through with my fully loaded 28-ounce blender bottle and GoPro. And I will note that the security staff were extremely friendly. And here we go into the terminal itself. Initial impressions were solid. It's modern, well-lit, spacious, and clean, although it lacks the character and jaw-dropping architecture of some of the stations you'll find in Europe, which is to be expected. Straight ahead, you'll find the Brightline equivalent of Hudson News, basically some souvenirs, grab-and-go food, iPhone chargers, and more. So, they do have food and drinks here. It's mostly like prepackaged stuff though. Not a ton of good breakfast options. I think they do have some made-to-order stuff at the bar over here, but no formal restaurant sit-down or anything, which is good because I actually BYO'd my breakfast here. Pretty basic stuff, just some Greek yogurt, reliable old protein bar. All right, it's now about 9:15 for our 9:50 train. We got people finally starting to show up. It's getting pretty lively in here. They got Christmas music going. It's a good vibe. All right, before boarding, let's take a quick look at the other amenities in here. Brightline technically has lounges for all its passengers. So they got a lounge for the economy class too. So there are 2 classes of service on Brightline. You got Smart and Premium. And Premium's, I think, like the business class equivalent. The premium passengers get a real lounge, along with a slightly more spacious seating configuration, as well as free food and drink on board. However, Premium will run you anywhere from $40 to over $100 more per direction. So unless you plan on getting absolutely plastered during your journey, it does not seem like a great deal. Yeah, this Smart lounge isn't really a lounge by traditional standards, but then again, most people won't be spending a ton of time in the station anyways. If you do have time to kill and are looking to be productive, there were plenty of power outlets along with speedy Wi-Fi, plus a conference room for all my executives out there. Right around 9:35, it was time to get on board.
Morning, Brightline guests. We are now boarding the 9:50 a.m. train to Miami with stops in West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Aventura on track number 1.
Now, finding track 1 was quite easy, as there are only 2 tracks at this station. Keeping with the theme of most train stations around the world, there's no priority line or priority boarding gate. Everyone is called at once and walks to their respective car on the platform. Our ride for today is called Bright Orange, one of 10 trains in the Brightline fleet. Each one was manufactured by Siemens in California and then hauled over 3,000 miles to South Florida. Our locomotive, number 112, a Siemens Charger, was just delivered fresh last year, but our 4 passenger coaches are some of the oldest in the fleet at almost 7 years old. As you can see, our friends over in Palm Beach County are quite proud of this service, although I didn't know they were hurting for tourists over there. And here we are at coach number 2, one of 4 coaches on this train. Coach number 1 is premium class and the other 3 are smart class. This cabin is very smart looking indeed. These soft colors scream South Florida beach life and I love it. And of course, the cabin is very well lit, so we had no difficulty at all finding seat 14 Charlie, a forward-facing aisle seat. I proceeded to pop my carry-on up on the overhead shelf, which looked like I could fit some pretty big bags. Alright, unclear whether we'll have a seatmate yet, but seems like there's plenty of room either way. These seats do seem smart, slim. There's not a ton of padding on the seat, but we'll see how the glutes feel after 3 hours on the train. Alright, we got about like 3 minutes to departure. The seat next to me is still empty. Fingers crossed. I'd hate to get like everything set up right now and then have someone show up.
Attention, all Brightline guests. Ride 1 will be departing to West Palm Beach within the next minute. Please stand back close the doors will be departing.
And sure enough, we were off right at 9:50. The first leg of this journey basically follows the Beachline Expressway, aka Route 528, over to Cocoa. Then we'll proceed down the coast, not stopping until we hit West Palm. This first stretch of track is also the newest and can handle the highest speeds. Now, in my opinion, a high-speed train should also have high-speed Wi-Fi, and the Brightline checked that box. And as a side note, this list is a real who's who of Wi-Fi networks, headlined by Blue Crab Nomad's truck. Check them out, guys. Just a couple dudes living full-time in their RV. Doesn't sound incredibly comfortable, but to each their own. About 15 minutes into the journey, the snack and drink trolley rolled by, although none of it's free and I brought my own cold brew, so I politely declined. For the next half hour or so, we barreled towards the coast, leaving most law-abiding automobiles in the dust. But still, the overall journey isn't much of a time savings, if any, versus driving. That's because the Brightline's speed is limited in population-dense areas along the coast, and also because some older stretches of track aren't capable of handling the higher speeds. But Brightline has its clear advantages over driving. It's more spacious, comfortable, and reliable. Plus, you can work, eat, drink, sleep, or just watch the day go by without having to worry about the absolute minefield of crazy drivers that frequent the US interstate system. But beyond that, I think people, myself included, are just jazzed up about privately funded high-speed rail in America. And this service has certainly lived up to expectations so far. We pulled up to West Palm Beach around 11:58 a.m., right on schedule. Just arrived at West Palm. It's coming up on noon Eastern. Got, it looks like 2 more stops for Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I'm not sure where the second one is, but pretty productive over the first like 2-ish hours. And with all the sitting and coffee consumption, we were definitely due for a trip to the lavatory, which was not only incredibly spacious and clean, but also well decorated.
Welcome to West Palm Beach. Thank you for riding Brightline. Have a nice day.
After West Palm, the rest of the journey went pretty quick. As we hit Fort Lauderdale and Aventura, I toyed around with some of the seat features, and also took a stroll up to the premium car to see what I was potentially missing. Not much. There are 3 seats across instead of 4, but it doesn't look like the seats are that much wider. You do get a little grab-and-go fridge with free drinks at the back though. Alright, as we're pulling into Miami Central Station, let's see how Brightline stacks up versus the other transportation options between Orlando and Miami. Alright, starting with the least desirable option in my opinion. Now, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I don't want to lie to you guys. I think it's flying. Now, of course, the flying time is quick. It's just around 40 minutes in the air, and you can sip mimosas without worrying about traffic. But when you factor in travel time to and from the airport, taxi times, and potentially mammoth security lines, you don't really save much time, if any, and the experience is more stressful with less in the way of onboard comfort and continuous productivity. Not to mention, it's almost always more expensive too, with fares regularly exceeding $200 round trip. The cheapest option is probably the bus, of which there are 2, the Flixbus and the Jet Set Express. Both will run you around $30 each way and take around 4.5 hours. This option definitely isn't as comfortable and spacious as Brightline, takes a little longer, and you're also subject to highway traffic, but if you're keen to not pay insane parking rates in Miami and also want to save some coin, this just could be the solution for you. Now, lastly, there is an Amtrak service that can technically get you between Orlando and Miami, but it's part of a longer distance sleeper service, and it takes ages, so it's neither practical nor efficient for most travelers, so I'm not even going to give it the time of day. Alright, with all the local competition accounted for, let's address the elephant in the room. Could this be the beginning of a high-speed rail revolution in America? I think it is. Sure, you're never going to get the level of adoption you get in Europe, but Brightline has proven that success is possible in the right geographies and with the right strategic execution. Other really exciting projects, such as Brightline West, have gained significant momentum in part due to the Florida Brightline's success. Don't get me wrong, some of these projects are still really ambitious, and I'm still skeptical California will ever be able to connect San Francisco and LA without bankrupting taxpayers, but I do have faith in some of these more doable projects, and I'm excited to see where we end up in the next 5 to 10 years. Thanks for riding the rails with me today. Sayonara from Miami, and I promise I'll see you back in the skies very soon.